Hello, I am Umut Uslusoy. Welcome to the studio. We are back together for the third lesson of our Ableton Live course. In our first two lessons, we tried to make a start by just going over the parameters we would need for our work. In this lesson, we can slowly start to dive into the music making part, which is our main goal of using the software. We're back on our mixer screen again. There are two fundamental elements we use to transmit music. These are MIDI and audio. By audio, I mean sound files. For example, using any ready-made sample or recording an instrument. The channels we will use for all these processes are audio channels. In MIDI, however, the situation is like this. It's a bit different. MIDI is a protocol developed in the 1980s. It is a protocol that has continued to be used from that day to this and is extremely practical. Some instruments, which we call virtual instruments, they are referred to as VST plugins. For example, let's think of a piano sound. A piano has a counterpart as a virtual instrument. Any kind of instrument, drum machine, or anything else you can think of related to these, there's a plugin produced for almost everything available. We download these plugins to our computer and open them as an interface within the program. We can use them. The channels we use to do this are MIDI channels. The MIDI channel is just like on our keyboard. For example, when we press the M key, M appears on the screen. If it writes the letter, the working principle in MIDI is the same. When you press the Do key on your MIDI keyboard is actually not transmitting or carrying a sound. The only thing it sends there is this Do message to the computer. So in this way, what you play on your instrument, MIDI transmits to the computer what you play on your instrument, or what you play on your keyboard, or what we'll do in a moment on our own computer keyboard. And it allows us to hear it as sound. This is something I shared just to keep in mind as information. Now let's see what I mean by starting to work through MIDI channels. Again, we go to the categories section on the left side. Here, it's divided into sounds. We have a category, drums and instruments. We will generally be using these, 2 or 3. Normally, when we start making a song, many producers, including myself, first create the rhythm and the rhythm pattern of the piece and then start working from there. Most of the time, this is how the process of working and processing goes. When we click on the drums here, it has divided the categories like this. Here are the kits. What it calls a kit is ready. The one that contains drum sounds, as the name suggests, it's a kit. So it's something that comes in a package. For example, let's start by clicking on the 606 core kit here. Look, it just started to preview right here. We can keep this looping indefinitely until we click anywhere on the screen. It will loop this indefinitely. If what we're playing, if it's coming to our ears very loudly, just like we had our metronome here when we showed our first lessons. If you remember, just like we can adjust the volume of the metronome from here, we can also control the volume of everything we preview from here. Or if we need to show it on our other screen, we can adjust the volume accordingly. For example, let's click again. Let me listen to this kit. Nice. Let's say the sound came to us too loud. We turned it down from here. Great. We looked at this sound. Let's take a look at the next sound. This is such a kit. Nice. The 808 is famous. Especially in recent years, a double kit that has become incredibly popular. A nice acoustic kit. As you can see here, it's ready to use quite a high quantity. There are ready-made kits available for Ableton itself. If you are using the trial version of the program that you downloaded from Ableton's own website, it will allow you to use the suite version, which is the highest version of the program, for 90 days. This also allows you to use all the effects of the instruments within Ableton, just like all the double kits here, meaning you get to use the fully loaded version of the program. And this means that actually, if you just started using the program, in this case, for a long time you can really make your music productions using just the effects. plugins, VSTs, and ready-made drum kits inside this, without needing anything else. Now let's go back to the kits we just previewed. Let's go back to the mixer or the clip slot. I'm assuming we like this 808 kit. One of the best things about Ableton is that it works on a drag and drop basis. So when we drag and drop a sound we selected here, this instrument, this drum for example, is now ready to be played and processed here in the example. It may look like there's a complicated interface here, but actually it's not at all. I press Ctrl-Z again. Let's say this sound, I'm assuming I didn't like the one. I select it and that I'll load another one. Another method is this. If you double click on the sound you like, just like this, you can assign it to any channel you want, to any MIDI channel you want. You will perform the installation. I press Ctrl-Z again. Let's say we like the 808. We double clicked and loaded it here. There's a red button lit up right below here. This red button means it's ready to record. Whenever you want to record on any channel, this red button, for example, is ready to record my voice right now. Here you can see the signal. This is in a different way on the other channel. This red button that is lit up below indicates that the channel is now ready to process, or, as the name suggests, ready to record. If we're going to record on the channel we're working on, please make sure that this red record button is lit up. This is an important element. Here we have two options again. In our previous lesson, if the keyboard I showed you in the upper right corner is clicked, meaning if you activate it, if you see that it has turned active in yellow, you can use your computer's keyboard. As we can see here, A, S, D, F, G, H, J, K, or W, E, T, I. By pressing the letters U and O, there's a nice feature where you can play the instruments here using your own keyboard. These letters are arranged like this. Of course, I'm making this arrangement assuming you're using a Turkish Q keyboard. If you remember, there are white keys and black keys on the piano. So this A, S, D, F, G, H, J, K sequence symbolizes the white keys, while the W, E, T. The letters U and O correspond to the black keys on the piano as well. So here we can use our keyboard. We can start processing this instrument for live recording right here quickly. Playing and recording an instrument live from our computer keyboard or MIDI keyboard is not a process we normally prefer. Especially since we are just starting out, we will not prefer this. At first, because we will have to go through a complicated process, such as not being able to get the tempo right, or playing with the wrong instrument in the wrong places, and then editing it. And when you look at it, it's basically what we normally use more of. We will be writing all the patterns and all the content ourselves, by hand or using the mouse. In our next lesson, we will start creating our first sample and our first double sound. With the first double kit, we've prepared for our first MIDI channel. And as we slowly begin to create our song, we will also gradually begin to master the features and contents of the program. See you in the next lesson. Goodbye.